to save his home from foreclosure.
Yo, y'all remember that old show where they flip beat up old cribs into crazy mansions?
Yeah, I've seen it alright. When something's too good to be true, it's always never true.
Imagine one morning you wake up to this guy screaming outside of your house into a megaphone. You walk outside to find out that he is with a television crew and they are sending you and your family on a 1-week vacation, and during that time he is going to demolish your home and build you a brand new one from the ground up. Although it's pretty obnoxious, it sounds like a pretty good deal, right?
See, that's the thing. It's not even easy to imagine. Most families can't imagine this because their lived reality blocks it, making even the idea feel out of reach.
Well, it is a good deal until it's not. Foreclosures, angry community members, property tax increases, bills doubling to tripling, and even more family struggles. Many of the families that were featured on Extreme Makeover Home Edition ended up worse off than before Ty Pennington showed up on their doorstep.
Yo, I ain't never looked at it like that before. I always thought it was straight up blessings, not problems and bills stacked on top.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant, Delonte. Folks see the surprise, but they don't see what comes after. The cameras leave. That shine fade quick when real life come knocking at the door again.
But to fully understand how some families were negatively affected by what seems to be a very generous gift, we must first take a look at the families that were carefully chosen to get these home remodels. Typically, individuals would fill out an application form on the ABC website, which required them to provide a story of why they deserved a new house. You could also nominate another family, such as a friend or a member of your community.
I kinda get the feeling it wasn't really about helping who needed it most. It feels like they picked families whose story played the best on TV. Almost like the story came first and the consequences came later.
Every episode starts with a story of the deserving family in need, such as a family that lost their mother or father, a family with a disabled child, a family that's living in poverty, or a family affected by a natural disaster. Since this was a reality television show, it was very important to produce the most tear-jerking episodes possible, featuring stories that would deeply tug at the viewer's heartstrings. Some people argued that specifically targeting families who had endured unimaginable tragedy and faced overwhelming hardship was ABC exploiting them for better ratings.
So once they already picked the family, are they helping folks out of kindness or are they trading something? That's where it gets complicated. For the family, the reward is a house. For the show, the real currency is a story that keeps viewers watching.
Once the participants were selected, the crew would treat the families to a fully funded vacation to destinations such as Hawaii, California, or Florida. During the family's trip, ABC would rally hundreds of contractors, construction workers, and volunteers in the local community to help. Sometimes they would even make Facebook pages so all their neighbors could stay up to date. Oftentimes, the volunteers are critical for the house getting completed on time.
That's crazy because the volunteers think they saving the family, giving time for something real. Whole time the show cashing in on the story. And the people helping never get to see what comes after.
Then, Ty Pennington would video call the family and show his crew absolutely destroying their house. Now obviously they have to do demolition to rebuild a new house from the ground up, but it would still be a bit traumatic to watch your home filled with all those memories get smashed to a million pieces.
I mean, do the families at least get a say in how the houses turn out before they leave? Like layouts, rooms, stuff that actually fits them? They were sometimes asked for preferences, Kevin, but those ideas had to fit tight schedules and production limits. What mattered most was whether the design could be finished on time and filmed clearly.
But the ridiculousness didn't stop there. Remember, this is reality TV. Just building a very practical, standard, and modest home wouldn't be good enough. So the carpenters and designers were pushed to create increasingly elaborate designs and gimmicks to boost ratings, such as this airplane-themed bedroom with bags of peanuts as curtains, this very small backyard that was converted to a miniature go-kart track. Why not a playroom with a ball pit containing 27,000 plastic balls? And my personal favorite, a teenager's room entirely made out of duct tape.
This kind of design shows what the priority really was. The house stopped being a place to live and became a spectacle built to be remembered on television.
Desk. I have a bedspread and a pillowcase made out of duct tape.
The designers would take one small facet of their personality and dedicate the entire bedroom to it. Like this toddler who said he wants to be a cardiologist when he grows up, so they put EKG signals on the walls and a dresser designed to look like a human heart. Rooms like this seem very difficult to age in, and the tacky designs would actually take a considerable amount of effort to change.
That's the kind of thing that locks a family into a moment they can't undo. What feels special on reveal day can turn quietly into a burden
they're stuck living inside. I get wanting a kid to smile, that part's cool. But this stuff be so over the top, it feels like it's built for the cameras, not for real life after the show.
But sometimes it wasn't just tasteless designs. They would actually create new responsibilities that the family may not have even wanted. For example, this teenager got a jacuzzi that took up half the bedroom. The cost to maintain a jacuzzi is only about $20 to $40 per month in sanitizer and chemicals, but even doing the maintenance is a burden that maybe nobody wanted. Just draining that water every 3 to 4 months like you're supposed to would be incredibly inconvenient.
Bruh, ain't nobody trying to sign up for extra chores in their bedroom. You already stressing, now you gotta babysit a hot tub too?
Another thing they did often was add huge fish tanks or animal habitats, like this boy's room that looks like the reptile section at a pet store, complete with frogs, turtles, and lizards. Buying pet food, supplies, and cleaning the tanks is even more important because it will literally kill the animal if you don't. Extreme home makeover inserting new responsibility onto you without your choice isn't only annoying, for some people it created even more problems and financial stress that ultimately forced them to move out of their homes.
I keep wondering, could you really be in such a rough spot that you don't even question a deal like that? Like when life's hitting you non-stop, do you even have the space to stop and think there might be a catch? When folks hurting like that, they ain't sitting doing numbers in their head. They just see something that feels like help right now, and that's enough to drown out every doubt.
Now, most of the time, ABC would entirely pay off the home for the family. However, owning a home is more than just paying the mortgage. Expenses such as property taxes, utilities, and home maintenance add up extremely quickly. There have been multiple reports of families whose expenses doubled, if not tripled, within the first year of living there.
And it didn't just hit the family. Dropping a massive new build in the middle of a modest block shakes the whole neighborhood. Property values jump, taxes rise around it, and suddenly folks who never signed up for any of this are paying more just because that house exists.
The Dickinson family went from an 1,800 square foot ranch to a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom, 4,000 square foot super home equipped with cutting edge technology. So it's only natural to assume that the bills would go up. Their electric bill alone went from about $200 per month to as high as $600 after. Their property taxes tripled. The wife India said she wasn't worried. "My husband works and I work, so if I have to work another job to help keep it up, that's what I'll do."
I hear her saying they'll just work more, and yeah, that sounds strong at first. But then I'm thinking, you grinding all day to keep a house that you barely get to sit in. You making money for walls you only get to see when you tired. I never even thought about that, Delonte. You get the house, but your whole life has to rearrange just to keep it standing. How inconvenient.
But as the years went on, it got worse and worse. And in October of 2016, William filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy petition to save his home from foreclosure. He had only $5 in cash, $287 in a checking account, and $15 in a joint savings account at the time of filing.
It's like driving a car with the check engine light on and just turning the radio up. It still runs for a while, until one day, it don't. And now the damage is way bigger than when the light first came on.
However, it seems like they never lost the house, because on 2022 Google Maps you can see William and his daughter standing outside the front door proud of their estate. But that situation was nothing compared to the Oakvath family. The Oakvaths were from Gilbert, Arizona, and their story began with a heartfelt letter from their daughter Cassandra, who requested the show to renovate the cancer ward where she had been a patient. Touched by Cassandra's selfless request, the producers not only granted her wish, but also surprised the family of 9 with a 2-story mansion.
At a certain point, it don't even feel like help no more. Feels like once them folks show up, everything they touch starts to fall apart. Like the safest move might have been never letting them through the door in the first place. I hear you, Franklin, and yeah, word travels faster than people think. When one family starts drowning under it, neighbors notice, relatives notice, and whole towns notice. That kind of reputation sticks after a while. That blessing starts sounding more like a warning than a gift.
The construction involved a massive team of 1,600 contractors and volunteers that garnered attention from across the state. Unfortunately, this wasn't happily ever after. Utility costs reached $1,200 for electricity per month and $400 per month for water. Property taxes increased from $1,600 pre-makeover to $5,600 after. Brian lost his job and was battling depression.
I don't blame him at all. You give someone a problem dressed up as a miracle and leave them alone to carry it. Of course that weight turns inward, and that's the kind of pressure nobody should be expected to survive without real support.
Most critics forget the reason these families got these homes were because they were struggling in the first place. Many of them had pre-existing debt. Some of them weren't even homeowners in the first place. They were renting the house and ABC bought it and built them a new one. Combine these money issues with the family trauma they were all experiencing, and it's a recipe for disaster.
That's what people miss. These families were already stretched thin, barely holding on. Then something shows up looking like help, but it adds more pressure to the system that was already cracking. That's a prime example right there. Wealth ain't really in your pockets. It's in your mind. If you don't got the space to think long term, money just turns into another problem.
Many of the families feel guilt and shame that they couldn't live happily ever after. Most of them don't want to sell their houses, but the financial stress and family tragedy is overbearing. As the years went on, ABC scaled back their projects because so many homes were being foreclosed on. They eventually realized these over-the-top charity acts were too extreme to be truly helpful, but then their ratings dropped since the homes weren't extreme enough for TV, which led to the show being canceled in 2012.
I ain't no mathematician, but if ABC actually maintained just 200 of those houses, you talking at least 20, maybe 30 million a year. At that point, you start seeing why they built it, filmed it, and walked away.
It turns out when you find a broken family facing hardship and financial problems, build them an extremely oversized home with ugly interiors in the middle of a neighborhood surrounded by other homes not even worth half as much as the new one they just built.
I was cynical. I really tried not to be. But watching how this played out just made me even more cynical, dog. Put it this way, even if they kept paying and maintaining those homes, it still wouldn't end clean. When families keep getting help, neighbors start resenting it. Relatives start expecting it. And pretty soon, that help turns into tension instead of relief.
It ends up doing more harm than good.